Chapter 10. Overcoming the Fear of Failure. There was a time when the word failure haunted me like a shadow. It followed me everywhere I went, into my dreams, my thoughts, and even my prayers. It stood between me and my next step, whispering, "What if you are not enough?" As a young woman who had crossed the sea searching for a new beginning, failure was not just a fear, it was a forbidden word. Too much had been sacrificed for me to fall short. But as the years went by, as I became a wife, a mother, and later a grandmother, I discovered that failure was not my enemy, it was my greatest teacher, one who came dressed in pain but carried the gift of growth. Failure was not a punishment, it was life's invitation to begin again, but wiser, softer, and more courageous than before. The illusion of perfection. For many years, I believed that perfection was the key to safety. If I could do everything just right, I thought I could avoid pain, rejection, or disappointment. I believed I had to prove my worth, to be flawless in motherhood, in work, in everything I touch. But perfection is not peace, it's prison. It hides fear behind a polished face. It silences the voice that says, "I am enough, even as I am." When I first began to write, I struggled with that illusion. English was not my first language, and each sentence felt like walking across a river of doubt. I wanted my writing to be perfect, beautiful, eloquent, worthy of praise. I feared judgment, not just for my grammar or structure, but for my soul that was laid bare on the page. There was the voice inside whispering, "Who are you to write a book? You don't even have a college degree." And for a long time, that voice stopped me. I believed that without a diploma, without formal validation, my words would never be taken seriously. I thought education was the stamp that proved intelligence, the certificate that gave permission to speak. But one quiet morning, as I watched the sunlight spill through the leaves in my garden, I heard another voice, gentler, truer, say, "You don't need to prove your worth. You were born with it." I realized that the greatest degree I could ever earn was through life itself, the school of survival, motherhood, heartbreak, and healing. I didn't need the college certificate to confirm that I was intelligent. I didn't need others' approval to know that my writing had meaning. I wrote not to be admired, but to be honest. I didn't write to prove that I was good enough. I wrote to tell the truth that lived inside me. The truth became my freedom. From that day forward, I no longer sought to be perfect. I sought to be real. The courage to begin without approval. Courage doesn't wait for applause. It grows quietly in the heart of those who begin before they feel ready. When I published my first book, I had no college degree, no literature mentor, and no guarantee of success. What I had was faith and a burning desire to share that light had taught me. I remember sitting at my desk, hands trembling as I pressed publish. My heart raced with fear. What if people criticize me? What if my writing isn't good enough? What if I fail? But then the deeper thought whispered back. What if you inspire someone who needs your voice? That single thought became stronger than my fear. I didn't write to please the world. I wrote to serve the truth. I wrote from the courage of a sincere heart, from the place where authenticity lives. No degree could teach what life have already carved into my soul, the wisdom born from pain, the faith grown from loss, and the joy found in gratitude. Education gives knowledge, but experience gives insight. When I embraced that truth, I became free, free from comparison, free from approval, free from fear, the fear from falling short. Motherhood introduced me to another kind of fear, the fear of not being good enough for those I love most. Every decision I made carried the weight of responsibility. I wanted to protect my sons from every mistake, every disappointment, but in my effort to protect, I sometimes forgot the pain has purpose. I learned that children, like seeds, need both sun and rain to grow. Shield them too much from failure, and they never learn resilience. The year everything stopped in 2020, the world stopped. The pandemic changed everything. Fear surrounding us like a fog. Fear of illness, fear of uncertainty, fear of losing control. Yet in that year of stillness, new life entered our family. I became a grandmother for the first time. It was as if the universe whispered, even in chaos, love continues. While others spoke of loss, I saw renewal. Life reminded me that failure, too, can be seed. We lose one thing only to gain another. What looks like the end can become a beginning. That year also deepened my understanding of what truly matters. When everything else fell away, what remained was love, unconditional and enduring. Fear began to lose its power when gratitude took its place. Lessons from the garden. The garden has always been my silent classroom. Nature never fears failure, it simply renews. Flowers bloom, wither, and bloom again without shame. Even decay becomes nourishment for new life. One year I planted roses in the wrong spot. Too much shade, not enough sunlight, it refused to bloom, and I felt defeated. But instead of giving up, I moved them to the following spring. With little patience and care, they begin to blossom beautifully. The small moment taught me something profound. Failure isn't the end, it's feedback. It's the universe's gentle way of saying you are growing in the wrong direction. Try again. Sometimes what we call failure is simply misplacement. When we find where we belong, everything begins to bloom. Let go of judgment. For a long time, I measured myself by others' opinions. As the immigrant woman in the new country, I wanted to be accepted, respected, and seen as capable. I tried hard to fit in, to speak correctly, to appear confident. But silence, I learned, is not confidence, it's fear in disguise. The moment I stopped trying to impress and started to express, I begin to connect deeply with others. People don't need perfection, they need truth. They don't remember the flawless performance, they remember the sincerity of the heart. So now I write and speak without fear of being judged. I no longer ask, will they like this? I ask instead, is this true? Because truth carries its own power. I don't have a degree hanging on my wall, but I have the courage to write what I believe, to share my stories without apology. That courage is my diploma. When failure becomes freedom, there is a unique freedom that comes when you have failed and survived. Once you've fallen, realize the ground didn't swallow you. You stop fearing the fall. Failure strips away everything unnecessary, ego, pride, and pretense, and leaves behind what is real. When I fell, I found myself. I discovered that I didn't need to be perfect or praised to be worthy. I learned to embrace my journey without comparison. My worth was never measured by the degree I didn't have or the approval I didn't seek. It was measured by the love I gave and the truth I lived. Each time I fell, I rose with more humility, more clarity, and more grace. The voice of doubt and the power of faith, even now, the voice of self-doubt sometimes visits me. It whispers softly, maybe you are not qualified enough to teach others. Maybe your words aren't polished enough. But I smile at that voice now. I no longer argue with it. I simply say, thank you for your concern, but I will write anyway. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move despite it. Faith is my companion now. Faith tells me that the same God who gave me a voice to guide it where it needs to go. I don't need credentials to carry a message. I just need an open heart and the willingness to serve through my words. The grandson's lesson. One afternoon, my oldest grandson came running toward me, holding a handful of flowers from the garden. Some petals were missing, the stem uneven, but his face glowed with joy. Grandma, I picked these for you. I took them gently, smiled, and said, they are beautiful. As I placed them in the vase, I thought, this is how life gives us its gifts. They are not always perfect or polished, but they are sincere. The beauty lies not on the flawlessness, but in the love behind them. In that moment, I realized my writing too was those flowers, imperfect but offered with love. I no longer needed the world's approval to know they are beautiful. The act of giving, of creating, was enough. The power of perspective. Looking back, I see how every so-called failure led me closer to the truth. Every rejection redirected me toward authenticity. Every disappointment refined my faith. If I had waited for a degree or right credentials before writing, I might still be waiting today. Instead, I chose courage. I chose to begin without permission, and in doing so, I found freedom. Success, I've learned, is not about titles or validation. It's about becoming who you were created to be without apology. I no longer chase perfection, I chase meaning. I no longer fear failure, I fear not living truthfully. The wisdom of experience. Life itself became my university. The ocean I crossed taught me resilience. Motherhood taught me compassion. Loss taught me faith. And failure taught me courage. Each experience became a chapter in my soul's education. I may not have studied in the classroom, but I have studied in the heart of life. And no degree could ever measure that. Now, when I see young people anxious about success, chasing external proof of worth, I tell them, you don't need to prove anything to the world. You just need the courage to live from your truth. Do what you love, not what others expect. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more brave souls. Final reflection, the freedom beyond fear. Today, I write not to impress, but to express. I speak not to prove, but to share. I create not because I am fearless, but because I have learned to walk hand in hand with fear and still move forward. The fear of failure no longer controls me. I've learned that The greatest failure in life is not falling, it's never trying. So I keep writing, growing, and learning, knowing that I don't need a degree to be wise or permission to be authentic. My heart, my courage, and my faith are enough. Because in the end, the real success is not being perfect, it's being true. Life lessons. Failure is a teacher, not a punishment. Each fall carries wisdom. Each mistake births humility, and each new beginning is a declaration of courage. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone, only to live it with love, faith, and truth.